Welcome to Watkins Glen International Raceway here tonight. We are live with the FTSR Points Sports Car Series for the first time here on Full Throttle TV. It's going to be a great race. I'm joined in the booth tonight by Dean Doucet. Dean, we have 90 minutes of action, one class, all GTE cars. It's going to be exciting out there at Watkins Glen.
It really is, man. Last time we broadcast these guys a while back, different situations. It's going to be very interesting to see what, Koontz or Dicesare can do in these cars. They were in the very fast cars, the PT1s last time. So now they got to challenge the likes of Micheal Blackner and Daren Snyder and many, many others out there. It's just going to be interesting to see who comes out on top tonight.
Packed field here for the first event of season 2 of the SimRacingPoints Sports Car Series. Tonight's race brought to you by Hoppin Hard Hat Ale. It's made by one of the drivers in the race here tonight, so it's really awesome to have them on board, as well as Asphalt Motorsports. So thank you to those guys who are going to be covering the season for you guys and bringing it on Full Throttle TV. But let's get into the race information. They're going to be running Watkins Glen. A lot of people know that track. This is a little bit different version. We're going to be running the boot. The sports car layout, the IndyCar layout here, 3.45 miles is the length here. It is currently 75 degrees, 96 track temp, and that'll continue to go up because this is a morning start, and then as the day goes on, it'll start getting hotter out there, Dean. It's going to be a unique challenge for these guys. We got a lot of guys that we recognize from the Cup and the Truck Series out there, but you add a little bit of extra here to Watkins Glen, it's a different challenge.
Oh, it really is. I mean, the boot itself is going to put a little extra on these guys going down through that section, huge decline, and then you got to come up the up climb, if you will. And it's an interesting little spot, and you can really lose some speed down there at the lower section there, that one corner, a right-hander. And guys who get off that corner, I think last year we actually seen someone struggle down there for the first half of the race before they started to nail it down. So it'd be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Exactly right. We got qualifying going on right now, and Nick Dicesare, last season's LMP2 champion, on top of the board. As we said before, this series was a multi-class, 3 classes: amateur in GTE, pro in GTE, and an LMP2 prototype division. That's all gone away. Everybody's competing on the same thing, in the same playing field, all in the GTE vehicles. And right now we got a lot of Porsches, a lot of Chevys, a lot of Ferraris, couple Fords, and one lone BMW out there in Donnie Staubitz. But right now on the top of the board is a Ford, and it's only 0.03 of a second difference between Dicesare and teammate Matt Koontz there. Unbelievable how close these last.
Yeah, man, it really is. I mean, these top two, I mean, they're coming from that PT1. They were so fast in those. We didn't know what they'd have here, but here they are on top of the board with times in the 142s. Everybody else in the 143s, as you see, Reinhardt, another PT1 driver, coming into third there.
William Reinhardt, a brand new driver to the series, so welcome him on board. Matt Koontz goes to the top of the board here, as we're about halfway through this qualifying session. So the way qualifying works, so you can get basically as much as you can get done in 10 minutes is what you're going to get here. We got Mike Watts on the track right now, Matthew Filipowicz out there as well. You got some names out here that you recognize: Joe Flanagan, Donnie Staubitz, one of your teammates, Tony Solari, Brian Bliss, Micheal Blackner. We got some guys out here that they're up for a challenge here tonight.
Oh man, yeah, they're up for a serious challenge. You got to come in prepared against these guys. Some of these guys really into the road racing. They're good, they're excellent at it, and you've got to be prepared here tonight. And I mean, you look at this guy like Joe Flanagan, Pepto Joe sitting in fourth. Really nice lap for him. Looking for big things out of him this season.
Pepto Joe, I mean, we've seen him on the road courses in the Truck Series and the Cup Series and other things, done very well there, and finished runner-up to Micheal Blackner, or sorry, third place to Micheal Blackner, just behind Theo Taylor, and already he's out there on the track. That Pepto Joe concertina machine, man, if you guys haven't seen it, and this is not a plug, Joe doesn't sponsor us, but if you haven't watched his channel, it is very entertaining to watch him in the concertina. I believe he played something for somebody on a NASCAR show when he was at Charlotte last weekend. So it's a pretty good time. And Pepto Joe out there with a good lap. We also got, like we said, Donnie Staubitz, only BMW in the field tonight. He is up in 10th spot right now. Mike Watts, coming off a great performance at Circuit of the Americas in the FTSR Cup Series. He is up in 11th spot right now. And then we all have the GT defending champion not having a good lap, 13th on the board right now.
Yeah, Michael just, hasn't been able to put the time in that he would like out here to get prepared for these races. But the one thing about a guy like Michael is, if he didn't have the time, he's got the time now. He's going to get better and better as this race goes along. So if he qualifies way back here, look for him to make a move towards, the top 5 anyway.
Very big mix of cars as we are down to about 2 minutes left here. We got Scott Page on the list right now. Scott, driving a Ferrari. We got a bunch of Ferraris. Last season, if you followed the series, I think was mostly Porsche and Corvette dominated. This year it's Porsche, Corvette, Ferrari, a couple Fords, and one BMW. So all 5 GTs are represented. So that's awesome to see. We got Yario Escobar just completing his lap. Jari Brewpasher is on the track right now in his Ferrari, as well as Brody Hanna. And Brody Hanna, he's no road course slouch either, Dean.
Yeah, Brody Hanna, I mean, I know for a fact Brody Hanna can be extremely fast in road racing in these cars. It's a matter of whether he gets the track time. I look for him to be probably going to improve as this race goes along, so keep an eye out for him as well.
Luke Hantanaka up in 5th spot, so he's got a good lap up there. Reinhardt goes to 3rd quick. So the laps are coming down, and Dean, as these qualifying runs go, usually your last lap, because the fuel burns off, the tires can be your fast lap. That's your money lap, not your first lap, contrary to maybe some of the other series that you've seen here on Full Throttle TV, as these guys continue to put good laps in. Daren Snyder to 10th. Dicesare back on top of the board at a 142.
Yeah, Dicesare just flying around here right now.
He is one of the Fords, him and Reinhardt in the Ford GTs. I love those cars. My goodness. I mean, I'm a sort of biased maybe toward Fords, but they do look really cool. All the cars look really cool. We got Daniel Rice making his series debut in a Ferrari. He's getting it done through the inner loop right now as Jari Bruchwasser just put down the 12th best lap. And we're about 30 seconds away from being done with qualifying. These guys got to hurry up if they haven't put a lap in. Guys like Scott Page, James Torrey, Brandon Elder have elected not to put a lap in currently.
You see Snyder go with his fastest lap there at the end as well.
Here's Brody Hanna off the final turn here. And he's got a good run going. He's green in a couple sectors here. Can he push a little bit more? He's green on the last sector. And that lap is not going to be enough to move him up the board as qualifying comes to an end. And we are going to get tonight's 90 minutes at Watkins Glen started here tonight. And we will bring you up the grid here.
It should be a good one, Jared. You see on the standings, you can see the different makes of these cars and everything. We got a little bit of everything out here tonight. Ford on top. You got the Porsche in second. Ferrari back in 5th place. So a few different makes. Got a BMW out here as well.
Exactly right. And they're going to do a full pace lap around this track. But let's get into our 23-car field here tonight at Watkins Glen. And we take a look at the front row. It's very racing. They are on top. Nick Dicesare, Matt Koontz. They're going to be first and second. Row number 2 is rookie William Reinhardt making his debut in the number 64 Ford. Alongside him, GTE Pros runner-up Theo Taylor. And row number 3, we got Joe Flanagan, part of Pepto Joe Racing, and Luke Hantanaka, part of Proteus SimSport in row number 3. Row number 4, Proton Boogie SimSports, Paul Romanensky, and Lane Allen back in the series. He rounds out your top 8. And then in your top 10, Donnie Staubitz and Daren Snyder, Dean.
Yeah, 11th place will be Brody Hanna out here looking to do something in this road course racing series. Jari Bruchwasser, he'll be starting in 12th spot. In a 13th, you'll have Daniel Rice. On the outside of row number 7, it's going to be Mike Watts. Micheal Blackner back in 15th. He's got a ton of work to do, along with Eric Burghdoff in the 88. Brian Bliss will start in the 17th position with Tony Solari on the outside of row number 9. Then it's Matthew Filipowicz, Yario Escobar, Scott Page, Brandon Elder, and James Torrey rounding out the field.
Yeah, it's really great to see so many different guys out here. Some guys that run in oval stuff and some guys that are very road course oriented out here. It's a good mix of drivers as these guys are about ready to get this race underway. And Dean, we take a look at the race analysis here. We're thinking that these cars, now every car is a little bit different. Some cars have a little bit more horsepower. Some cars have a little bit better handling. Some cars have a little bit better fuel mileage. But we're thinking about 20 laps, which is going to be about 30 to 35 minutes on fuel. That's going to put it as a 2-stop race. But, you know, some of these cars, some of these wily veterans, they might be able to stretch this thing and make something happen here tonight.
Yeah, there's definitely room. I mean, who knows if you could stretch it to a 1-stopper or not? I mean, that, you know, or whatever the strategy may be, but the fuel stop itself and whether you get tires or not, that's where it's all really going to play out. I mean, I don't know, Jared. I don't think you can go without tires tonight.
Exactly. And I think this is a series that the GTE cars were updated. The tires were changed just a little bit since the last time you may have seen these on Full Throttle TV. And I think you're right, Dean. I think that these tires are going to be a lot more of a factor than some drivers. Like I said, Nick Dicesare, Matt Koontz finished 1 and 2 in the LMP2s. Mike Watts, Brian Bliss, those guys both in LMP2 drivers. And now they're out here. How well do you think they're going to be able to adapt out here in the first race with the brand new car concept?
Well, I mean, speed-wise, they've already shown they've adapted. They can handle it. That's no problem. The difference is the racing and the strategy. I mean, they're used to being able to different cars. So how are they going to feel when they, come up on some lap traffic or get some battles towards the front where they can't really just outpower a guy? They're going to have to out finesse him. So it'll be interesting.
Will be very interesting to see. While we have a second, we're going to go ahead and get our national anthem as performed by Alyssa Ship.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's whose rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, proved through the night that our flag was still there. Hey, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the lands of the free and the home of the brave?
Impeccable timing there as we are back just in time for the pace car to pull off. And green flag is out, and we are already underway for the 90 minutes of Watkins Glen. Great start by Dicesare. The green flag, I think, surprised some people, Dean, as they're going to head into turn one.
Absolutely, it might have got him back behind. We got some three-wide action. A couple of guys locking him up back there. Everybody through safe so far.
Wow, what a job by those drivers getting through turn number one. That's going to be the crucial spot on the track tonight. I think as this race goes on, we will see what happens. And Dicesare already getting some pressure from the rookie, William Reinhardt, the two Fords out front, and they're going to challenge down to the boot. Or the bus stop, apologies.
Absolutely. Great challenge here. Great fighting up here. These guys doing an excellent job so far.
Great job through the bus stop for these drivers. Jari Brewpacher with a great move through the bus stop. And we look ahead. Dicesare, Reinhardt, Koontz, Flanagan, Taylor, your top five already. Brody Hanna's moved up 2 spots. Clean start so far.
And one guy on the move here, Jared. You look back at the 8 of Filipowicz. He's up 6 spots already, so a great start for him.
Filipowicz working on last year's GTE-AM champion. Daren Snyder down into turn number 11. He's going to back off there. Right behind him is Mike Watson, that number 55 Ferrari. 2 Ferraris, Jari Brewpacher and Mike Watts going head-to-head. Brewpacher's going to have the undercut coming through turn 12. Watts is going to power by on the outside. Up front, Nick Dicesare is going to lead lap number 1.
Yeah, Dicesare, Reinhardt doing a great job moving up to second at the beginning of this race. Flanagan still showing nice back and forth. Everybody kind of taking it easy right now, and that's no real surprise here, Jared. These guys, they want to get these tires under them here. These tires take a lap or two to get themselves up to speed.
Yeah, exactly right, Dean, and that's what we're looking at. First lap around, and you see Dicesare with the fastest lap time. 2 Fords, a Porsche, a Ferrari, and a Porsche, your top 5. Everybody doing a wonderful job already, single file, but these guys already starting to think about that strategy. It's a 90-minute race. No need to go aggressive right now. And right now, even though I say that, Matthew Filipowicz, apologies, is still battling with Daren Snyder. That's the battle on the track right now, and he is all over that 13.
Lipton, he is coming. He is just not giving. He's taking everything he can get, Jared.
And his teammates are Paul Romaninski and Theo Taylor. So he's not into turn 8. He is going to elect to go against that. And right behind them, you've got Mike Watts finally getting around Jari Brewpacher. Micheal Blackner would check in on last season's GT Pro champion, and he is down 1 position in 16th, just ahead of Brian Bliss, who's hanging in there pretty tough. Just got around Eric Burghdoff, so Brian Bliss lost a spot on the start, but now he's back to his starting position of 17th. The 18 car, he can get it done on the road courses too, Dean.
Absolutely, he can. Just experience a little technical difficulty here, Jared. Just need a minute to get her straightened out.
All good. Brody Hanna has gone off track. May have the 23 machine. Looks like he might be heading to pits. He's got some damage on that machine. We will see if we can get a replay on that number 23 while Dean's getting his situation going here. So here's Hanna doing a good job behind Donnie Staubitz. Going up the hill, and he just looks good so far. Oh, he just lost. Oh my goodness, just gets the car onto the grass. Does a great job keeping that thing up against out of the way, but unfortunately, Brody Hanna in the number 23 is going to be on the jack stands, but that might not be a bad thing. He might be able to get this going with the pit strategy play right now as we look up front. Nick Dicesare leading, but it's only a half a second. Reinhardt is not letting that number 00 get away from him so far. Koontz in third. Flanagan still holding on to fourth as Dicesare a little technical issue of his own. And Theo Taylor in fifth. And there's a gaggle back here with Hantanaka, Romaninski, and Donnie Staubitz all battling for position.
In on this battle right now, Romaninski is falling back here to 7th place. He is struggling a little bit. Actually, he's status quo, but I mean, he's got heat, lots of heat around him.
Donnie Staubitz made an aggressive move, got up on the rumble strips, but was able to hold that car steady. Daren Snyder goes off track. Oh, and he's in the gravel pits. He's going to come back out right in front of Tony Solari. Everybody's going to avoid him, but already, Dean, this track's starting to get some guys in trouble out here.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, you're going to see more and more of this. I mean, the tire wear here is going to, there's going to be some tire wear for once in road racing. And these guys are going to have to deal with this car. And if they keep pushing over the limits of the track, they're going to run into some real problems.
So it's Dicesare, Reinhardt, and Koontz. These guys have opened up a 5-second lead over Flanagan and Taylor. And then behind it, that's where all the racing is right now, from about 6th place to back to 10th place as Lane Allen battling with Daniel Rice. He's got Daniel Rice behind him. Filipowicz has moved up to 11th and continues number 8 machine. Jari Brewpasher has lost some spots on the start, but he's gained them back as he gets around Mike Watts and Micheal Blackner as well. So, Dean, there's battling all over this track. We're only 6 minutes.
There's all kinds of battles. I can't keep track of it all. But Micheal Blackner, really quite a surprise. I mean, he was dominant at times last year. I mean, we did mention he hasn't been on the track as much, so we'll see if he does improve. But right now, he's showing up 1 spot, so he's not doing too bad, but expect him to move forward at some point.
The number 22, the defending champion, won all but 2 races, missed the last race of the GTE season at Mid-Ohio, and he was involved in an incident at Daytona, but he won all the other races in the pro class. And right in front of him, Mike Watts and Jari Brewpasher, the two Ferraris, have been battling back and forth. That's a battle for 12th place, and that could be something to keep an eye on as this race goes on, to see if these manufacturers, how they're going to race each other as this race goes on. Brewpasher, a little loose coming back up onto the NASCAR straightaway.
Jari having a little bit of a control issue there, but he's hanging in quite well. He's got a lot of heat from Watts and Blackner there.
And you talked about it, Filipowicz, Dean. He is continuing to put down good laps, about a 10th quicker than all the drivers ahead of him. Up until Donnie Staubitz, who's also put down some great laps. Didn't look good in practice. We had practice last night, Dean, and Donnie, looked like he might be off a little bit, but it looks like he put some time in, and he is really getting that machine going forward for Blackwire Motorsports up to 8th spot, and he is challenging Paul Romaninski and Luke Hantanaka right now.
Yeah, you see him here coming through the bus stop area looking really smooth there. So I got to say, he did put in some time because that looked rather good there.
Lane Allen, he's making his return to the series. Great to see Lane back out here. Very, very much a great road racer. One of the best as far as the NASCAR stuff goes. He's in 9th place, and he's just one of those guys, Dean, that he is going to just sit there and race and let the car come to him on these road courses. Very methodical when he comes out there.
He is. He's very patient, very methodical. He'll run within the confines of not only his car, but his position on the track. He'll be quite content to sit here and wait for mistakes. The question is, will Rice or Filipowicz back here as well, will these guys be as patient? I don't know if Filipowicz can hold off.
Staubitz gets up on the rumbles, gets loose, and Daniel Rice gets loose behind him. Lane Allen, consistent, stays the same. He's going to get a little bit of time on Donnie Staubitz. We check in up front. We're jumping on board William Reinhardt forward, and he is just stalking Nick Dicesare. They have actually opened up the gap on Matt Koontz to 2 seconds. Dean, William Reinhardt might be new to the series, new to the league, but he is coming to play tonight, given the LMP2 champion all he can handle right now.
Absolutely. He's looking good out here. You've seen him come through the S's, coming down in here to the hard braking zone, into the bus stop, taking that curb rather nicely there. Oh, a little bobble there, and you can see that cost him just a touch there of closing time, but he'll head down into the boot here, looking really racy tonight.
And now Matt Koontz behind, and they've kind of lost touch of these top two. And oh my goodness, different line. I think he's trying to get Dicesare set up a little bit there and get a little bit more straightaway speed. But that car got wicked loose there. They're using a high downforce setup here tonight, and that is going to be something that we'll have to keep an eye on, because these cars, high downforce, it'll definitely run those tires off. And the top three, man, what a race we got! As Koontz actually gains just a little bit of time back on Reinhardt because of that bobble.
Are you sure these top three got into the GTE car? Because I'm not so sure.
These guys are putting on a show. Flanagan has actually opened up the gap. Let's talk about Joe for a second, Dean. I mean, you know him from the Truck Series. We've been covering him for a while. And Joe Flanagan just having a good night. I talked to him before the race, and he's like, all that lap I put up in practice, it's all a fluke. I don't expect I'm going to have a good race. And there he is in the 53 machine in fourth place, up one spot, and he's pulling away from Theo Taylor.
Yeah, man, Flanagan's looking really solid. And, you know, if you talk him of running the road stuff, so he's out here, he's turning laps, he's enjoying himself, and it's really showing that he likes it, he enjoys it, he practices it. Here he is in fourth against some top-notch road racers. I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Got storylines all throughout the field. As we look further back, James Torrey gets off the course, the same place Daren Snyder did. And Torrey, that car might have got the wall, and looks like he might be taking that to the garage. Unfortunately, Torrey.
Reinhardt's in trouble.
Oh no, Reinhardt. Reinhardt has hit the wall. Oh, he's got off course in the bus stop.
In the bus stop, he got through into the gravel, into the wall. He might be done. I'm not sure.
I think he's waiting for a position to come back out. Very smart move, because he doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to get out. We're just going to follow this for a second.
Classy move by Reinhardt to stay off the track. You see him get out there now, finally, but that was really classy of him. He didn't have to do that. He could have put people at risk. He decided that it was his mistake. He's going to take his medicine here and go to the back.
Still a lot of time. As you see, he's going to float in behind Yario Escobar and Brandon Elder there, another Ford driver. Let's see if we can get a quick replay on what happened with William Reinhardt. So here we go. You see him, Nick Dicesare in front there. He's coming through. Oh, he just hits the entrance to the bus stop, Dean. There's a little bump there, and he slides into the tire barrier. I actually think that car did not take that much damage, but I think he just couldn't get that car back on the track. And there were so many cars coming. I respect the move, but he's lost a ton of time.
Yeah, I mean, his race is effectively over. It's going to be about how well he can recover. Can he get back into the top 10, perhaps? But his loss is other people's gain. I mean, he talked about the patience of a Lane Allen, or maybe the aggression of a Matthew Filipowicz. These guys, you know, Staubitz, Romanowski, they're all moving up spots. So one man's falter is another man's gain, and these guys are taking advantage.
Reinhardt has gone to pit road, as has James Torrey with that damage, and Brody Hanna still in the garage currently with that number 23 machine after he took a big hit into the fencing. But right now, it's the very racing guys, Dicesare and Koontz up front. Flanagan promoted to a podium spot, and Theo Taylor now starting to close in on the Pepto Joe machine. in 4th place. Luke Katanaka is in 5th. Paul Romaninski in 6th. Staubitz up to 7th, and he continues to put some pressure on Romaninski. Lane Allen in 8th. Filipowicz up into the top 10, up 10 spots. He's our big mover of the race by a large margin. And then Daniel Rice, our newcomer, in 10th place right now, Dean.
Yeah, and that battle, from Flanagan back is something. And I want to highlight the 777 there of Theo Taylor for a minute. Remember him last year, different situation, but nonetheless, he could really show flashes of brilliance. You're going to be interested to see, can Theo put together a complete 90 minutes here? He's looking really good so far.
And Theo was a driver that improved as the season went on. He won a couple races toward the end of the year in the GTE Pro and challenged Micheal Blackner when a lot of people didn't think that was going to be something that was going to be possible. And Theo Taylor doing a great job right now of putting the pressure on Pepto Joe. And as William Reinhardt has exited the pits, a minute 38 behind our race leaders. So basically about 4 seconds ahead of our race leaders. So now pit strategy is going to be very important for Reinhardt right now. Looking at some of these other drivers, we'll jump on board Paul Romaninski as he looks ahead. That gap ahead is from 3rd to 5th. They've started to pull away from Romaninski, Staubitz, and Allen. Dean, maybe some tire strategy moves here?
Yeah, there's always a strategy to think about. I mean, I don't know what is going on to allow Dicesare and Koontz to get this kind of lead on these guys. They're up, pushing 8 seconds now from Koontz to Flanagan, and Theo Taylor all over Flanagan now.
And you look at the time deltas here, Dean, and it's insane. Koontz has started to reel him back, but Dicesare just putting down 142, 142, 142, high 142s every single lap, and really just establishing themselves as just some premier drivers out here. At the same time, when you start up front, you have a better opportunity to stay up front, as we got some more action back here. Reinhardt has, Micheal Blackner has gone off track. And Blackner in that same spot, we saw James Torrey and Daren Snyder go off, Dean, right down there at the exit to the boot, gone off track, and Micheal Blackner dropping to 18th spot. So the defending GTE champion having a rough go of it here at the Glen.
Yeah, and that's a very tricky spot. If you try to cut that corner too much there on the exit of that bus stop, you're gonna, it's gonna unload that weight of the car. You got a hard right-hander right there, and you'll just go around. We've seen that a few times.
Oh, and Blackner's coming in, and Donnie Staubitz got off the track just a little bit. That's going to allow Lane Allen to get a big run down the back straightaway. Can the Lane Allen machine, the 14, make a move into the bus stop? He's there. He's elected not to do it.
Lane, the ever-patient Lane Allen.
Donnie gets loose. He's in the wall hard.
And
somebody else, Filipowicz.
Filipowicz, oh my goodness, he was having a good run.
And we saw it right there, Dean. He just caught those curbings, and that curbing can be destructive. And Donnie Staubitz smacked that wall. When he hit that barrier, he came back across the track. It's a ricochet. It's like rubber, and it ricocheted in front of Filipowicz. Let's see if we can take a look and see what happened there at a little bit better angle. So there's Donnie. We're going down the back straightaway. Lane Allen with a great toe. And maybe Donnie was just spooked just a little bit. Maybe thought Lane was going to push it in there. So he drives in deeper into the corner. And you'll see right here, he comes out and just takes it a little bit wide. And that car just never going to make that. And then the car just nowhere he could go there, as the car was dead on arrival. And Filipowicz was right there. And that is unfortunate for both those drivers in the top 10.
Man, is it ever. And you just seen how important. I think he called it perfectly there. Lane Allen closed the gap. Donnie started to break, but Lane Allen didn't. Then Lane broke, and Donnie, I think, let off a little bit. And those are the type of mind games that you play out here on road game. Whether it's on purpose or not, they get in your head and they cause mistakes, and we've seen it right there.
Well, hopefully it won't be for an awkward Monday morning meeting but at that team shop there. But these guys doing a great job. Lane Allen now by himself after that incident. He is about 3 seconds behind the Romaninski machine.
I think Stephen Loomis might be the car owner there. He might have some words for these guys, but we'll see how it goes. Dicesare doing a heck of a job, and Koontz staying right there.
We got Koontz. He is, and they're just, these guys are such smart road racers. We did a 24-hour race with them. Me and some other guys, Terry Cooper, Brandon Elder, all did. Donnie Staubitz did a 24-hour race with these guys, and they are so methodical. They're not guys that overdrive. They hit their pace marker, and they just keep running that time, rather than trying to push that thing any harder. And now Matt Koontz has actually closed up the gap on his teammate here, Dean.
Yeah, Koontz, I think, has just been, let's say sandbagging a little bit. I don't know. Maybe saving would be a better way to put it. He's just kind of riding. He knows these two are all alone. All he's got to do is stay in contact. And I think he might be waiting for his time. We're about 20 minutes in here, so there's a ways to go in this run yet.
And you look at the track map, William Reinhardt there at 18th spot. He is the last driver on the lead lap right now. And there we go. And you look at then there's a huge gap, Dean, as third place Joe Flanagan just now coming through the S's, while the first two drivers are going through the bus stop.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big gap, but there's also nice racing back here. I mean, it's broken up a little bit after a couple of incidents, but Flanagan, Taylor, and talking Tanaka. I can't even say it. You're going to have to educate me on who Luke is and how to say his name, Jared.
Luke Hantanaka. I'm pretty sure it's Luke Hantanaka. Luke, I apologize. We'll confirm that with you after the race. I apologize, but I know you told me before, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Luke Hantanaka. But he is doing a good job hanging with these guys, and he's hanging with Theo Taylor and Joe Flanagan. These guys are no slouches, and Luke Hantanaka doing a great job there. Right behind him, Paul Romaninski just witnessed his teammate get destroyed there, and just kind of hanging back now, it looks like, in that 000. Lane Allen there in 7th. Daniel Rice up 5 spots into 8th spot, followed by Mike Watts and Jari Brewpascher. That's a good battle too, Dean, right here. 9th, 10th, and 11th, all within a blanket here, with Tony Solari gaining on him.
Yeah, Solari trying to make a move right now on Jari Brewpascher. And I think he's going to get that done, is he? I'm not sure who's who here. No, it looks like Brewpascher going to hold him off there.
That was Burghdoff and Brewpascher, but that little battle there is going to allow Solari to catch up just a little bit. In the distance is Daren Snyder. We could have a little mix here, as we're about 10 minutes from pit stops right now.
Yeah, pit stops are going to play big. We've seen it time and time again. Those who can get on and off pit road clean, make the right decisions on pit road, they're going to be out here. They're going to improve their position, whether that's the Koontz and Dicesare battle or the Flanagan Taylor Hantanaka battle or others. I mean, we see there's several battles out on the track. Pit stop's going to be so important.
We jump on board Luke Hantanaka's Porsche, and you're seeing right in front of him Theo Taylor, Joe Flanagan. This battle, they have been pretty much sandwiched together since the beginning of this race, with Romaninski kind of hanging back and Allen also in the fray as well. But this is battle for a podium position to start your season off. This is a 12-race season, and every point counts so much. They use the IMSA point system in this series, and man, that is going to be a lot of points, as we got Brian Bliss off the track in the bus stop, barely touches the wall, kind of like we saw Reinhardt did, and he is going to get that car going again without losing a spot. So good job by Brian Bliss.
Yeah, Brian, we've seen flashes of brilliance out of Brian Bliss, and this is a track that he likes, so I'm surprised that he's not doing a little bit better out here, but pretty challenging out here tonight.
And now they've created a gaggle. Scott Page, Yario Escobar, and Brandon Elder all in this battle. Brandon Elder going to look inside, entering the boot. He gets up on the rumble strips and nearly gets into Escobar, holds on to that machine, and he is going to get that thing going again. But Brandon Elder has been picking up time. I think he was a little bit of a slow starter in the race, and now he wants to start moving forward. As somebody locks up in front of him, I think that was Scott Page, who's now looking on toward the back of the pack.
Absolutely. Good little battle between Bliss and Page developing here as Bliss has to regroup after that off track. I mean, he just got to get his head underneath him, get his, everything situated back up. And I think he's a little bit faster, but you got to keep that thing on the road.
It was Brandon Elder sliding, trying to hit in the pit road, and he is going to make it in. But that was almost bad for Brandon Elder as he nearly wrecked that car going in. Back up front, it's still very racing, leading the way. Dicesare, Koontz up front, and then they have Flanagan. But while we were looking at the other battle, Flanagan has actually opened up a almost 2 second lead over Theo Taylor. And at the same time, Paul Remenitsky has decreased the gap to Lou Cantanacca by 2 seconds. So this is starting to kind of accordion back. No pun intended there.
It is a little bit of a Watts, Brewpacker, and Burghdoff fighting for 9th, 10th, and 11th. These guys just cannot separate from each other.
And we got Pepto Joe Jr. out there watching. He says Pepto's been sim racing for 23 years. I think he enjoys it. So there you go. Also, Casey Mullen out there enjoying it as well, saying let's go FTSR, enjoying all the action here on Full Throttle TV. And we got a whale of a battle, Dean, 25 minutes into the race, and we've got action all over this track.
Absolutely. Great race so far. I mean, Dicesare and Koontz up front. That's going to be a battle we'll talk about all night long. Battles for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Battles for 9th, 10th, and 11th. Others back around Bliss and Page. I mean, it's unbelievable action out here.
And this is a fixed setup series, so everybody's got the same equipment. The only difference is the cars. So, one track, then that's the game thing there. But that is typically not the case. These cars are very balanced. So most of the time, it's pretty good. As you see, Scott Page lost a little bit of time to Brian Bliss, who started to increase that gap. And Dean, you were talking about earlier, this is Brian Bliss's home track. I think he's like 50 miles up the street from this track. So it is
and he expects to do well here. I mean, I heard him talking today saying he's turned, thousands of laps at this track, not in preparation for this race, but in general. And he expects to do well. So right now, 14th is really not a bad race, but he's expecting more. Look for him to try and come back here. He's currently 20 seconds back from the next spot, so he's got a lot of track, and all he's got to do is turn some smooth laps.
Scott Page is there, and it's about a half a second between those two drivers. The Ferrari and the Porsche, and Brian Bliss was an LMP2 driver last year. As Page gets a little bit off track there, Escobar is going to be able to close up on that gap. We look ahead, and Daren Snyder started to kind of reel in this battle for 10th place, which is Tony Solari, Eric Burghdoff, and Jari Brewpasher and Mike Watts. So actually a battle for 9th as Burghdoff with a great run there. And again, we can't have this broadcast. Eric Burghdoff and Daren Snyder, appreciate those guys at Asphalt Motorsports and Hard Dicks Hoppin Hard Hat Ale. Hard Dicks Hoppin Hard Hat Ale. I will get it right, Darren. I apologize. But thanks to those guys for putting it out there and product to the forefront here. And it has been not disappointing at all. These guys have put on a whale of a show so far here, 27 minutes in.
Hard to say, Jared, but easy to drink is their ale over there.
There you go.
Daren Snyder's we've seen him last year have some really great races, and if I remember correctly, a lot of them were later on in the race. So he seems to be getting himself. I don't know what happened to him early in the race. I think he had an off track, but here he is back in 13th, and I think he's starting to find his rhythm here.
This gap, he was about. Let's see here. That gap to Tony Solari is gone from 2.8 to 3.3. So he's lost a little bit of time, but it was just on that last lap. So he didn't have a great last lap, the one we go up and look at here. But he has pulled away from Brian Bliss by quite a bit here. And the 13 machine, as we said, can't be remiss and not talked about enough. This guy won the GTE-AM championship, tied with Eric Burghdoff. The tiebreaker was a victory in which it was basically came down to the last race of the year, where Daren Snyder and Eric Burghdoff finished second in the class and ended up being tied on points. I don't think you can have a better season than that, but Daren Snyder trying to get back out here again, and he is kind of inch closer to Tony Solari, who is inching closer to Eric Burghdoff.
Yeah, and as Burghdoff is closing in on Brewpacker and Watts. So, I mean, this battle for 9th, 10th, and 11th still as hot as ever as they continue to play follow the leader here. Someone's going to make a move here soon.
Forward, Jari Brewpascher as well. And you look, Dean, at this track. I mean, if you take us around here for a second here as we look on board. I mean, look, and oh, he's going to make a move, actually. Hold on a second. On the outside, and Watts is going to protect the inside, going through the bus stop, and Watts is going to prevail right now.
Hard braking there, hard entry point, really handled that well. Great job by Watts. Brewpacker putting on a show, trying to make a move there with the RA here. You see him heading down into the boot. You know, you got to come down this hill. Heavy braking here, hard right-hander. Now, one of the keys here is getting awful hard, but can he get off the corner?
He saw Mike Watts ahead of him, Dean, got up the track, up on the outside of that concrete there, and got really lit, gaining back up on Watts through here. And again, oh, we got somebody off. Is that, that's Daniel Rice, our rookie, and he's going to be able to get that thing going again, but that's going to slime here. Brewpascher looking to take advantage.
Yeah, wow. So Brewpacker, Burghdoff, they're through. Now, I have to get a different view on this. Has Watts come through both of them? What's happened here?
Well, Watts did come through both of them, but he is going to make his pit stop, as is Daniel Rice. So pit stops are going to start around the 30-minute mark here for these drivers. They that's going to stop pit stop window, and Tony Solari's in.
Brewpacker's really high there. Burghdoff going to come down the inside into the
Ferrari versus Corvette here, and Italian versus American as we go through the back straightaway now, as Burghdoff is going to have a tow heading into the bus.
Lucky there was a big runoff there. He was deep into one, too deep in that runoff area, really saving him.
I think he mistimed the bus stop. He lost a lot of time there. Burghdoff actually had to slow down. But while all that's going on, we got pit stops starting, and Tony Solari with a great pit stop. Looks like we got some drivers taking tires. Tony Solari, not one of those drivers. He is out and down away. That could be something to keep an eye on, Dean. Watts and Daniel Rice both taking tires and as well.
Yeah, always interesting to look at this strategy. Lap 17, a lot of guys in. Solari, no tires. Other guys with tires. So interesting as I continue to look at Brewpacker and Burghdoff. They're really battling out here.
The double Bs, and Brewpascher with getting a little bit loose coming up the hill there. Burghdoff's all over him. In the background, Daren Snyder, the teammate to Eric Burghdoff, this battle before too long, as they are going to be side by side coming through what would be number 12 and 13 here, and Brewpascher going to open up that gap. Burghdoff might be looking to pit here.
Yeah, I think he's finally said, okay, enough of this. Let me get, or one of them is
Brewpascher.
Brewpascher is in the pits, so big call here. We'll see what he decides to do. I'm thinking 4 tires.
You look at all these drivers. Nick Dicesare in that Ford still out there. We currently have 16 drivers still on the track, so we did have some retirements. Brody Hanna out, James Torrey out, Blackner out, Donnie Staubitz out. Filipowicz is in the pits getting repairs. Heavy damage earlier from Donnie Staubitz, that Donnie Staubitz incident. Then we have William Reinhardt, who is out. Brandon Elder, who's on pit road with heavy damage, getting that repaired. And then Rice is just now down and away, 1 lap down. But that's where the battle is right now. Looking up front, it's still 13 seconds now ahead of Flanagan.
Yeah, there's still, I mean, these guys are just dominant out here tonight. They're probably going to run this thing dry. I expect them to go as long as possible, try and get that short fuel load. Oh, and Koontz is in.
Koontz is going for the undercut, Dean, and you know how much I love the undercut. That's one way to get around him.
That is a way to get around him, and it's a great call. I mean, if you don't think you can make it, which we really don't think there's any chance of making it in a one-stop, get out in front, make Dicesare follow you around for a while. Flanagan's in as well.
Pepto Joe, Lane Allen also in, so that's going to leave Dicesare, Theo Taylor, Luke Hantanaka, Paul Romanensky, Burghdoff, Snyder. They have not come around to the front stretch yet. We're on board Burghdoff here. Slowing down, so Burghdoff is going to head into the pits. Daren Snyder is going to stay out. So a lot of different strategy calls here, Dean. As far as this race goes, we are thinking it's going to be a 2-stop race, though, for sure. And they're definitely making that the case right now.
Yeah, and right now the guy to watch for me, and it's not really for race position, is Tony Solari to see. He had no tires, Jared. This could be a crucial mistake or bonus for him.
And then we got Matt Koontz also down, it looks like with no tire change as well. Same with Flanagan, yeah.
Yeah, so we got a few out. I mean, Lane Allen's in getting tires, no doubt about that. So is Burghdoff.
This is a very energy here with some of these drivers taking tires, some of these drivers not taking tires. And if they, I think we're going to see everybody take tires, but do you want to take it on the first stop or the second stop? That's going to be the question. Some of these guys making the decision to stay out, and track position can be huge. Tony Solari's already put himself into the top 10 thanks to that decision as Dicesare is on pit road.
Yeah, interesting looking in on the 88 of Burghdoff. So he came in, but a 26.7. That's an extremely long, 5-6 seconds longer pit stop for no tire stop.
Taylor, Hantanaka in. And Dean, it could have been a situation where he might have had some damage. Didn't see him have any contact with anybody specifically, but that Corvette may have had some damage. Decided to get that repaired in time. Got on that pit road a little bit slower than some of the other drivers did. And look at, you look at some of these drivers, Mike Watts, Lane Allen, these guys took tires. Lane Allen had a 47-second stop. He had to have had some damage or maybe filled that tank up. I'm not sure. But Lane Allen could be somebody to watch for if he did fill that tank all the way full.
Absolutely. I mean, I like the tires here because if you don't take them now, you're going to have to next time. And if you do take them now, maybe you don't have to next time. It opens up the strategy. Joe
Flanagan going to lose out on pit road. He is going to lose spots to Theo. Man, Theo Taylor puts down the best pit time, 13.75 seconds, a 45-second pit lane time, Dean. Did they get that car full of fuel?
I don't know if they did. I'm thinking the same thing. I don't think he got enough fuel in. You could say the same about Tanaka there. He is, 17.5. That might be a guy making a correct, just fill it as much as barely as I need. But Taylor with a 13.6. This is an interesting decision by Theo Taylor.
Yeah, that's as we bring up our pit times here on your screen, you'll be able to see those along with us. And you'll see what we're talking about here. This is point 7:21.5 as they're working on lap traffic right now. Scott Page there. Then you got Taylor, by far the fastest at 13.7. Luke Hantanaka, by far the second best at 17.4. I got to say these guys are on a fuel strategy mode, and I'm going to be that makes it a little bit intriguing, Dean.
Looking at these pit lap times, the pit times themselves, they're all over the place, Jared. I can't even tell who's taking no tires and who's taking fuel only. I mean, you can mostly, but the times are very interesting.
Lane Allen back in pit road. Dean, he did not. Something happened to Lane Allen. Did not go off track, but he did service on the car, but no indication that he got off track or that was a very quick pit stop down and away. So Lane Allen, I'm not sure what happened to him, but he is back out on the track.
Yeah, I'm getting a look at it now. I can't for the life of me. I mean, it must have been a penalty, I guess, speeding on pit road.
And there is that is something else too. There isn't it before you get a black flag and you have to drive down pit road. But I don't indicate that he has that many incidents. So I'm very interested to see what happened there with Lane Allen. In fact, nobody has anywhere close to that. Burghdoff with the most right now at 7 incidents. So that's not it either. I'm not sure. On pit road, that could be it, Dean.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be it. For the life of me, can't figure it out. I don't even think it's registering as a pit stop.
Yeah, exactly. It must have been a penalty. That's a tough break for Lane Allen, and now he's really going to have to make that work. Right now, up front, Dicesare and Koontz, and these guys are just stalking each other, and they know there's one more pit stop here, Dean. And if you're in, how hard do you press your teammate, number one, this early in the run, knowing you have another pit stop, and second off, just in general, how hard do you press your teammate?
Well, that's an interesting decision. These two are probably content to settle this among themselves. They're probably not going to overly push this. And how Dicesare managed to get out in front of Koontz there. That was an amazing job by him. Koontz in a lap earlier.
Yeah, I thought the undercut would pay off, but it just didn't quite do it. But you look at the outlaps, Dean, and looks like Koontz is just a little bit slower on his outlap than Dicesare. But these guys back to status quo. Theo Taylor, though, on that low fuel mileage is actually, or low, we think low fuel, decreased the gap down to 11.3 seconds to Koontz and Dicesare. That gap was 15 seconds when he pitted. So that is something we'll have to keep an eye on. If that is a strategy trying to make up some time here, Flanagan has gotten, they're still nose to tail entering the boot right now.
Flanagan holding on to 4th place. He's got to run down Theo Taylor, who's almost 5 seconds ahead of him. I got to catch my breath here, Jared. This is something else here. 9th and 10th still battling. Burghdoff. I'm not sure what happened to Watts. He was right there.
That's Lane Allen, who just came out of the pits right behind this battle as we jump on board him. And you got to look at what's going on there as Hantanaka looking at a different angle there as we are now at the 45-minute, almost to the 45-minute mark. And you look at some of these other battles here around the track.
I was talking about the battle back for 10th and 11th, Jared. Watts and Brewpacker. Maybe it was Burghdoff and Watts, I guess it was. 9th and 10th.
Yeah, that battle has changed up quite a bit. Burghdoff it has come out ahead in this battle. He is 2 seconds ahead of Mike Watts and 15 seconds ahead of Jari Brewpacker, who had a pretty slow pit lane time, a little bit conservative getting on pit road for that number 89 machine. And that's kind of separated out this battle just a little bit here as Burghdoff starting to show himself. But the guy that was the real winner, Daren Snyder, who is at the tail end of this group, he's now moved up to 8th place. And Tony Solari has moved from the very back of this group all the way up to 7th place. I mean, Tony Solari has definitely put some guys on notice with that undercut strategy. Pitted on 17, though, so that's something we'll have to keep an eye on.
Definitely, and you got the guys, the first guys with sets of tires looking like Brewpacker and Rice. Perhaps Watts, I'm not sure with that pit time of 34 seconds, whether he got tired.
Yeah, that's going to be something we'll have to keep an eye on as this race continues to go on to its halfway point. This race is flying by. I mean, it's a timed race, but it is flying by. 45 minutes, almost 45 minutes down in the books. And we look at some of these other drivers around the track here. Joe Flanagan in 4th. Hantanaka has fallen back to 5th and fallen off the back bumper of the Flanagan machine. We look at some time deltas here between Solari and Romaninski here. And Solari, that gap has started to come down. It's now 9 seconds between those two drivers. So that 74 is a little bit racy. He's pulled out a little bit of a gap over Daren Snyder, about 6 seconds. And Daren Snyder and Eric Burghdoff, teammates there, battling for 8th place with Mike Watts holding on to top 10 as we are 43 minutes into the race. But status quo up front with Dicesare leading Koontz.
Yeah, Dicesare putting down just great lap time after great lap time. His last lap, a 1:43.9. The only guy sub 144 on the track. He is just looking great. But Koontz, man, you can't shake him. I don't care what lap time you throw down. Koontz is right there.
Yeah, and there's another guy that we have to circle, and that's Daniel Rice. He put down the 3rd fastest lap that last time by. So we saw him get a little bit loose, get into the fencing, but they got that car repaired. Looks to be good now. He does have a damaged rear wing in that Ferrari, but honestly, Daniel Rice could be somebody we have to take a look at and kind of think about, could he push his way to the top 10 in that number 9 machine?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's got the fresh rubber, right? He's got a lot. Him and Brewpacker, they've got a bunch of ground to make up, and they're not making up the ground. I'm really surprised about this 4-tire decision. Perhaps they need to come up to heat still, Jared, but the guys with no tires are doing just fine as of now.
Right now, 44 minutes on the books. Nick Dicesare has pulled out that gap just a little bit on Koontz. And Dean, you talked about it. those tires, these guys with these fresh rubber, we think Brewpasher, Bryce, Scott Page on fresh rubber. We think that these guys all have fresh rubber in it, and really just not putting down the lap times I anticipated compared to the guys that didn't take tires as well.
Yeah, I'm a bit stunned that we're not seeing the lap times we are. Brewpacker at 1:44.5, pretty good time. But a lot of these guys up front are running those times. So I don't know. He's making up a few tenths here and there, but for the amount of time lost on the track, it's just not equal. We'll see if the end of this run, it might pay off for him.
We are halfway through the race. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to leave you with live action on the track, focused in on our race leaders, or actually we're going to focus in on Tony Solari and some of these other drivers back through here, and let you listen to the sights and sounds of the Full Throttle Sim Racing, SimRacingPoints.com Sports Car Series. – 48 minutes into the race, Dicesare continuing to lead and over his teammate Matt Koontz, and this race continuing just to kind of go through. And now we're in that phase where everybody's kind of started to throw that first punch. Now it's all about the reaction as we are about halfway to our next pit stop.
Speaking of punch, and I'm looking in on the 89 of Jari Brewpatcher, he is coming. I mean, he's picking up between a second and a second, 1.8 seconds per lap on Mike Watts now. So this tire is starting to pay off.
Mike Watts doing a great job there. And those new tires, like you said, Dean, can have look at the time delta here. And you'll see it, Brewpasher, that gap has come down between Brewpasher and Watts from 14 seconds to 9 seconds. And if we look ahead, Watts to Burghdoff, that gap has come down from 3.3 seconds to 2 seconds. So these guys on the fresher rubber are starting to make a little bit of headway, like you said, Dean.
And it'll only pay off more. I mean, we've got about another 10 minutes, 12 minutes of running here for these guys during this section of the race. Maybe not enough time to make it all up, but they won't. If they don't want to, they don't have to take tires again. I think the other crew will have to.
Yeah, and that's going to be something to think about, too, as this race goes on. You know, when you know, is somebody going to gamble on that, Dean, and not take any tires at all? And if they do, can they hold on to this machine, or is it going to be too difficult to drive at that point?
There will be some people who go with no tires, but it can end in disaster. We've seen it before, very, very late in races, where the car just gets away from it all race long, and all of a sudden, with about 10 minutes left in the race, everybody's car is going away, and they're in all kinds of trouble.
Well, speaking of things that are going away, Theo Taylor on that low fuel strategy, he gained a lot of time. I mean, he got the gap down to 9 seconds before we left for a little bit of a break there. And now it's back up to 16 seconds. So Theo Taylor going the wrong direction on that low fuel. In fact, Joe Flanagan's starting to inch his way forward. That gap for time delta real quick here, and you'll see it. Taylor, that gap between Koontz and Taylor has gone from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. And if we look back, the gap between Flanagan and Taylor has gone from 5.5 to 4 seconds.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, it's a net win still. Pit time, I mean, my goodness. He was only in the pits for 13.6 seconds. If he can make it another 6-7 minutes, it's a net win for Theo Taylor. I mean, 6-7 minutes. What did I say? Minutes on the track. He can get this race to about the 58-minute mark. Then he can come in and pit and do a bit of a long run. He should be fine.
Well, Dean, do you think that strategy was the top three, like Dicesare, or the top two, I should say, in Dicesare or Koontz, or is it something to maybe try to leapfrog Flanagan because you were kind of stuck behind him in that early part of the race?
Well, I mean, I'd never take it away from a race car driver to be thinking win. I think we're all thinking win all the time, but realistically, this is to get a podium. I mean, whether he knows it or not, I think Dicesare and Koontz are that much better, but I say that Theo Taylor is right now very comparable times to these guys, a little bit slower, but not bad at all from Theo Taylor.
We are joined in the broadcast booth by the driver of the number 23 Ferrari, Brody Hanna. Brody, welcome. Also league owner of Full Throttle Sim Racing. Glad to have you in the booth, Brody.
I don't want to be known for the driver of the 23 tonight because it was kind of sloppy, but yeah, no, I've been watching the race a little bit here, just kind of seeing what's going on out here, and these guys are actually putting on a good show. There's a lot of good racing out there.
So you started out the race mid-pack. How was the racing out there? It looked like you just got a little bit loose out there, got the fencing, but before that, it looked like it was a pretty compact field, very competitive.
What, for 2 laps? Yeah, it was good. Everybody was doing a good job. We were talking before the race about everybody kind of taking it easy early on, and we were doing that, just kind of setting our pace. Everything got a little too aggressive out of the corner there, caught the grass, and that was that.
This track can sneak up on you very quick, but Brody, you know, you race in a lot of different disciplines. You're a very accomplished road racer, but what are you thinking about Nick Dicesare and Matt Koontz just putting on a clinic right now and just kind of mimicking each other? Me and Dean have been going back and forth on what they're going to do, and I asked Dean earlier what he would do if you're in Koontz's situation. You know, it's your teammate in front of you. Do you try to, I mean, how do you handle that situation when you're have another pit stop to go?
Well, at first glance with those guys out there, you kind of think, okay, they just picked up right where they left off, just in a different car. And it is that, but you also have to remember, Micheal Blackner had some tough luck tonight. He's been off his game. Theo's been catching those guys from the back of the pack. So I really think starting position is going to be even more critical here, keeping up with these guys. I think Theo can run with them. Of course, we saw, his name slipped my mind, but I was watching
Reinhardt.
Reinhardt was hanging around with those guys as well. So it's definitely not, it probably is not as bad as it looks as far as those guys being out 15 seconds. But yeah, as far as racing your teammates though, that's the one guy out there you probably don't want to wreck. But I know these guys, and they like racing each other hard and having fun with it. So I'm sure they're having a blast out there.
Well, Dean, as we were talking about that up front, Theo Taylor has elected to come in the pits, and I think you called this strategy, bud.
Yeah, I mean, you knew he was going to have to, right? It was running out of gas, no doubt about it, with the up. Now, we looked for him now. The key is he going to take tires? And maybe that's the whole thing. He's like, next stop, I'm going to take tires. I'll use all that time to sit here and fuel up as well. So I probably a 4-tire stop for Taylor. We'll see here.
I'm going to throw something out here to you guys. I don't think it's the case, but does Theo Taylor in the Porsches not getting the fuel mileage that these other drivers or other makes are getting? Because maybe he's setting up knowing that he's going to have to make a third stop. Is that something glancing over here tonight?
Well, before Brody jumps in, I want to remind Brody of a race me and him ran way back when this racing first started, and my car got so much better gas mileage. I shocked a bunch of people with what I was able to do out there, including myself, jumping from about 10th to 2nd or something along those lines. So, Brody, talk a little bit about the fuel mileage.
Well, there is a difference. We saw Theo actually did take tires there. There is a difference between these cars, and there maybe a difference in fuel mileage. You'd be surprised how different driving styles can actually factor into the fuel mileage you get. So there's a lot of factors. The different cars, different driving, coming from the back and having to battle through traffic. He may have saved actually a little more fuel, surprisingly, than some of the guys that started up front and are able to kind of coast around the track.
Dicesare has come in.
Oh boy! Now that was a little bit earlier than I thought it would be, but Nick Dicesare,
and he missed his stall. I mean, it's not as important here, but he threw his stall back in it.
But Dean, to your point, that little mistake right there is just that little mistake, that small of a mistake here on the pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, Matt and him are so evenly matched all night long. This is the type of thing that could lose you a race. Be interesting to see how long he sits here. Now, looking at 27 seconds and counting, this is going to be a 4-tire stop for Dicesare.
So, Dean, you called it. These guys that pitted early that didn't take tires, now they're going to take the tires. And Brody, you were out there, but these guys, I mean, that tire, how much are the tires wearing, or how much have you heard that the tires are wearing? We know that iRacing put an update out that influenced that a little bit. Is it something that really is going to be a factor in this race?
To be honest with you, out there tonight, I didn't know. In practice, I didn't even run more than 2 or 3 laps at a time. I know it factors in, but these guys, like I said, it also depends on where you start. If you started in the back, you've used your tires up coming through the pack. You start out front, and you're able to take your stuff a little bit easier, even though you're trying to maintain a certain pace. So, yeah, it's tough to really know. Honestly, I didn't get enough track time to really know out there, but these guys are starting to find that out, and I'm sure we'll factor that in going forward throughout the season.
Koontz is in the pits. That's going to turn the lead over to Flanagan if he stays out. He's got Lane Allen, who we believe had a penalty on his hot on his tail. Mike Watts also in. You saw that live on the screen. And, a guy that played some pit strategy, did the undercut and gained about 6th position. That's Tony Solari. He's now pushed his way into the top 5. Part of that Fury Motorsports group, your group, Brody, but Tony Solari, a guy that, Dean, we've talked about before, he just keeps improving and keeps going full made, and he's able to put himself into a good position on the track right now, continue to stay out.
Strategy is so important in these races. I can't stress it enough. You mean you're fighting tooth and nail to go between 1 and 5 seconds on the track during a run for the guys around you. In the pits, you can make up 10, 20, 30 seconds depending on all that. So very, very important.
Yeah,
here
Luke's
comes
in.
Koontz.
I was going to say Luke's in, Tony Solari's in, Romanowski's in. All these guys are starting to hit the pits.
Dicesare has gotten by. Koontz going to follow in. Guess where? Right on his bumper.
But guess who beat them both out? It's Pepto Joe.
Joe to the lead with a 15.9 pit stop. And that's what I'm talking about. He jumped over 20 seconds to the race lead.
What a move by Pepto Joe there in that number 53. He has put that car in the lead with a great pit strategy. Brody, that's part of this type of racing. I mean, we got rid of the multi-class in this series, and everybody's racing the same thing. But the other thing that we kind of, that brings it more close together is those pit stop strategies, and Joe Flanagan with a gutsy call right now, can he hold these two guys off behind him?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to kind of have that option whether to take tires or not. It can be frustrating too. You make the wrong call. There's a lot that goes into these pit stops. A lot of time spent on pit road. So if you can save a little time in pit road and skip a set of tires, it will definitely pay off for you. We'll see how long Joe can hang on out there though, because Matt and Nick are both closing on him pretty quickly.
I don't know. We got Pepto Joe Jr. on the chat there, and I'm telling you, Pepto Joe Jr., I know your dad's loving it right now. We talked about his enjoyment of this. Man, is he loving this.
What a job by Joe Flanagan on that pit strategy. That gap is 1 second. The very racing drivers are closing it down. Some other drivers we got to keep an eye on. Snyder, Burghdoff, Brewpasher, Daniel Rice have not pitted yet. So Theo Taylor in 8th place has pitted, along with Romaninski, Hantanaka. They pitted. Brian Bliss has not pitted, nor has Lane Allen. But we think Lane Allen has added a lot of fuel and might be stretching that thing out as Eric Burghdoff comes in right now. But Nick Dicesare, guys, he is catching up to Joe Flanagan. Now it's going to be Joe Flanagan's going to have to put it.
I want Joe to get a little mean out here. Throw some blocks out here. Hold this thing down. Joe Flanagan leading this thing. It's beautiful.
20-minute race here, and we're an hour and 6 minutes in, so we have about 24 minutes left here of racing. That's a long time to kind of, try to hold these guys off. But I honestly think it was just there we go. Nick's going to take it to the inside. It's a net gain, I think, for Joe. He's going to fall in probably third behind these guys, and he's got a pretty good gap back to Daren Snyder now in fourth.
Yeah, well, it was Theo Taylor. He was battling with Brody. Theo jumped him on the last pit stop, but he had to come in and take 4 tires this time, so they flip-flopped their strategies this time. Now Flanagan with the big advantage. We'll see if Taylor can crawl it back with those fresh tires.
At Watkins Glen International, and what a battle we've had. Top 3 all on your screen right now. Dicesare leading Koontz. Flanagan in the distance there. We do still have Snyder, Brewpasher, and Rice that have not pitted along with Brian Bliss. So those guys will be waiting here. They're stretching it out long, so that could be something to keep an eye on as Dicesare goes wide on the front straightaway. Now, Brody, and Dean too, we talked about this earlier. Now the gloves have to be coming off between these two teammates, right? At this point, I don't think there's another pit stop for these guys.
I've been watching this. Matt's been stalking Nick the whole race. And the thing is, if you're out front looking in your mirror and you got teammates, friends, whatever, it's in the back of your mind. How much is this guy saving? How much more does he have? I mean, he's run me down. He's riding with me. I'm just waiting for him to pounce. And that'll get in your head. And eventually you either make a mistake or the guy will start showing what he has.
I know sorry, Dean. I was just to say, I know the Dicesare clan is watching tonight and probably rooting on Nick because he has a little bit of internet connection. But you go ahead and finish up there, Dean.
Oh, I was just going to talk about what Brody said earlier on. He was talking about, it's the one guy you don't want to wreck, but, and it was problems for him. You want to be clean and ride behind him. But every single minute that clicks off this clock, that goes out the window just a percentage point more. Koontz is, I'll ride behind you. Oh, how about I get a little bit closer? Or how about I just push it down the inside during this straightaway? So it's going to get real fast.
And just to add on top of everything else we've been talking about, these guys are in 2 different cars. So there's strengths and weaknesses in different places on this track. You have to factor that in. And the following driver, Matt Koontz, he's learning a lot more about Nick than Nick is about Matt. So I honestly think that Matt's probably in a better position at this point.
While all that was going on, we did have Mike. He's going into the bus stop. This is not the bus stop. Apologies. This is coming into the boot section. Kind of where we've seen a lot of issues this race. Just got loose on entry to the boot or exit of the boot. There, gets around and hits those tires. He is good to go. Gets that thing spun around without too much damage to that number 55 Ferrari. Teammates to Pepto Joe in this series. So those guys doing a good job there so far. But 13th is where Watts is going to cycle in. Solari drops back to 12th. Burghdoff in 11th. Lane Allen back up to 10th after the pit stops have come in. Daniel Rice is on pit road. Brewpasher and Snyder have continued to stay out. Makes me wonder what kind of strategy that those guys are playing right now.
Speaking of strategy, look at the the Flanagan Taylor times. So Flanagan on older tires here with a 150 45.6, and Taylor with a 144 flat, so a second and a half. Very interesting. Just enough time maybe for him to get back up there and challenge.
Yeah, that's going to be a gap coming down because they're about 24 seconds apart. 20. Am I seeing that right?
Yeah, 24, 25 seconds.
Yeah, so it's going to be tight for him to come back up through there. But you're right, Theo, with the faster car is going to be doing a lot of chasing here at the end, trying to get back to Joe. We'll see if that works out. Like I said, it may have been a net gain for Joe, but we'll see.
Love all the different strategy here. Just a fantastic race to call and watch here. And several guys, like Burghdoff back here in 11th place. I mean, he was battling for 9th there, maybe 8th or 7th at one point. So he's got a lot of work to get back in this thing.
I believe some of these guys still have pit stops to make as well. I think Yari and maybe even Daren, those guys kind of snuck into the top 5. They still have another pit stop to make. So things are still going to shake up a little bit more before we get to the end here.
Well, talking about those two drivers, you're correct, Brody. Those both those pretty much know they have to make another pit stop. But you look at the pit times. Brewpasher, a 47.25. So we think that he took tires and fuel last time. Daren Snyder, these guys last were on pit road. Brewpasher on lap 18. Daren Snyder on lap 20. So you can already tell these guys are stretching out longer than we've seen anybody. Got to be something that they've got in the back of their mind on what they got to do to get a good finish tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely use fuel strategy to kind of get yourself up in position for sure. Do I think it's a winning move? Probably not, but getting those guys up in the top 5, top 10 for sure. These guys are going to come up on Joe Flanagan on the older tires. It's interesting for 2 different points. If I was Daren, if I need to pit, I'm going to pit just as I catch these guys so that I don't have to battle somebody and interfere with my in-lap. If I'm Joe, I want those guys to pit before they get to me as well, because the more they slow Joe down, the more of a chance Theo's going to have to catch him. So there's a lot to think about, right?
Another guy I want to highlight. Try not to highlight him because his name's too hard to say. Hein Tanaka there in the 02. He's in 8th place. He's had a nice, clean strategy race here, sitting in 8th place. He's going to move up a couple of spots when those guys pit, and he's closing in on Paul Romanowski as well.
Brewpasher has come in the pits, and Dean, you're exactly right. He was battling with Joe Flanagan. Now he's on that a little bit of a different strategy. He took tires last time. He's on the same as Theo Taylor. Him and Theo kind of mimicking each other. But I like the parity. I do want to bring that up before we move on to some other stuff here. But we have a Ford, a Porsche, a Ferrari, and a Corvette in our top 4. So that is as much parity as you can get in a series, I believe. So very nice to see that. But back up front, it's Dicesare and Koontz, and Brody, they're still just, like you said earlier, stalking each other. But 21 minutes left. I'm just surprised Koontz hasn't made a move yet.
Well, Koontz is one of those guys. I've seen both these guys, and of the two, I think Koontz is probably the more patient of the two, just in general. So it's not really surprising to see him just ride here. Now, if he's thinking just solid finish here, maybe riding second here to the end, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him pounce here and start really making this a race out of these two guys. Like I said, if you're in second, you're riding right now, and you're learning a lot about the guy you're following.
And Dean, you look at some of these other drivers, Lane Allen in the pits, and he is going to probably looking at fuel only, trying to make up some time that he lost on that penalty, as Daren Snyder continuing to stay out. I'm a little bit shocked that he pitted on lap 20, and we are already on lap 39, so he's already doubled the amount that he's pitted, and I just can't believe he hasn't come in yet. Everybody else short pitted that last stint.
Yeah, very interesting. He's looking for a little gas and go at the end. But, I mean, we've seen Brewpasher was just in. He had a time of 14.6 in the pits. So maybe taking a little more fuel than he needed. I think he could probably do a 10-second stop at this point and get away with it. I don't know if it's going to be – I think it'll be a net win for him. I mean, he's got to try something. And you know how I like that, Jared? Try anything. If you're just going to ride status quo and you're in 12th, that's where you're going to finish. Try something. It could be a net gain for him.
Yeah, I tried something too. I tried the grass. It doesn't work. So Just try that. That doesn't work. The you going back to Daren though, you were talking about Daren Snyder staying out. You were talking about parity. There is a lot of parity as far as the speed goes, but there is also some differences in the fuel mileage numbers just a little bit too, which makes everything a little more interesting as well. And so Daren being in the Chevrolet, I think he's the only Chevrolet in the top 5 right now, may factor into the fact that he gets a little bit better fuel mileage. But I think also he's short shifting a little bit.
Yeah, we were on board there, and let's jump back on board. Did get word from the garage. Scott Page has taken that Ferrari behind the wall, and Matthew Filipowicz, who was doing so good earlier in the race, Dean, is back out there picking up some spots, some points, some valuable points. Brody, you said it. Daren Snyder, he does appear to be kind of shifting a little bit differently than some of these other drivers out here.
And it's a little, it can be a little tricky to hear, but yeah, I mean, this car's a lot quieter, but maybe he's just able to save some fuel by doing a little bit of short shifting, maybe not shifting as often as some of the other guys out there.
Yeah, it looks like
he's doing something. About 2.5 seconds faster lap after lap on Daren Snyder.
And let's take a look at that up, and you'll see it. That gap has come down from 19.2 seconds between Taylor and Snyder down to 7.9 seconds. So, Dean, you weren't exaggerating. That gap is really coming down in the battle for 4th place. I wonder if Snyder might be trying to squeeze this thing out.
It seems like he is. I mean, it'd be hard to believe that he would have pitted on lap 20 versus, trying to walk it a little later than that to finish. He's stretching it, whether it's to have a short pit stop or to finish the race, I'm not sure. But another interesting point is the Theo Taylor, Joe Flanagan, which, Snyder is right in between, has cut that down to about 18.5 seconds. Last time I looked, it was about 25 seconds. So he's still coming.
And let's take a look at the time delta between those. So 3rd place Flanagan to 5th place Taylor. That gap has come down from 26.7 down to 19 seconds last time. They're about to complete another lap, so we'll get an update here. But that gap has come down 9 seconds. 9 seconds, and we have 18 minutes left. Boy, that's gonna be tough for Theo Taylor to catch up, but it's possible.
Yeah, if he's getting that much per lap, it's gonna be hard for him to hold that off. If Theo's, all right, as we see Daren Snyder, heading to the pits right now.
Finally, Snyder comes in.
Now Taylor is across the line, and the gap is now down to 17.7. So he is gaining. He gained a second on that last lap alone, and so there you have it, guys. I think Theo Taylor, a second a lap, 17 minutes left plus a lap. I think that's going to be a battle on the track very shortly. Probably 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, I think Theo's got the speed, as long as he doesn't make a mistake, to get back up to 3rd. Joe's going to have a hard time holding him off on those older tires. Looks like Daren did just take a splash. But yeah, so there's your top 5. Nick's in 1st, and Matt. Joe's 3rd, Theo Taylor 4th, and Daren Snyder come back out in 5th.
Romanowski actually going to filter into 5th now. Snyder going to fall down to 8th place, I believe.
I mean, that's a pretty good net gain, Dean. I mean, Daren Snyder was back in 13th position before the first pit stop. He got off track early in the race, and he was able to get that Corvette going. He was catching up to Solari, Burghdoff, Watts, that battle for 9th place. And now he's going to, back in the top 10 here. He is 13 seconds ahead of rookie Daniel Rice. So that's something to look at. That could be a big win for him. Same with Brewpasher, who's now up to 7th place. Good run for Yari. We've seen some flashes out of Yari in the past, but seems to get involved in some wrecks. I know last season he got taken out in the first lap in 2 races, unfortunately, but having a great night here tonight as they're going to catch up to Yario Escobar there, who's we haven't talked a lot about Yario, but I got to admire his perseverance. He's out there 15th place right now and turning in the laps, so good job, Yario. A clean race as well.
Yeah, these strategies so interesting because, I was just going to say the late, the early tire stop with the late no tire stop was the best, but then you think of Theo Taylor. He took tires on the last pit stop, as did Dicesare and Koontz. So really no best way to do it, but the key is to be good at it, right? To do it, have a strategy planned out, execute it correctly with correct timing, great pit stop, great pit lane time. And these top 4 guys, I mean, take your pick. Well, especially when you talk about 3rd and 4th, right? 2 great strategy calls, and they're gonna. You called it. You said about 15 laps or 15 minutes to get there. I looked up. We had 15 minutes left in the race, so it's gonna be really close.
It's going to be fun to watch. And you talk about different pit strategies. I think it is personal preference. When do you want your tires? When do you want to, push? When do you want to be able to save? I've always been of the mindset that I want to be able to push to the very end. At the end of these races, you want to be on the attack. You don't want to be on defense. So, again, personal preference. But here at the end, I mean, Joe's going to have a hard time fighting off Theo. Theo's going to be charging, and Joe's going to be in protect mode. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this works out.
Well, speaking of being on the attack, Luke Hatanaka has caught up to Paul Romanowski, and he is all over the back of the 000. That is a battle for 5th place. Hatanaka has chopped out that gap from 3 seconds down to half a second. So it's Porsche on Porsche for the battle for the last top 5 of the race. And man, oh man, Hatanaka has been persevering. That car's got a little damage on it on the side, but he is just continuing to cook out there.
He's been awesome. I've been loving watching him race, and I like the way he's handling this challenge so far. He's summing up his opponent. He knows this is probably the one position battle that he can get to. There's no rush here. He's got a good 12 minutes to figure this out, to sit here. And as Brody pointed out, the guy behind learns a lot more than the guy in front, so he's going to suss this out for a little bit.
Yeah, a little Porsche on Porsche crime here, and you see him trying to break the... Actually, he's going to let him go here. So I think Paul realized that Luke had caught him pretty quick, and Luke's going to slide into 5th place here.
Classy move there.
So now we have, we were talking about parity, and now we have 3 Porsches in the top 5, 4 in the top 6. But the Ferraris are still there, and the best Corvette is Daren Snyder and teammate Eric Burghdoff back in the top 10. So Eric, getting that machine, the 88 machine, he's had a kind of an up and down night, but hanging on to 10th place just ahead of Mike Watts. But right now, the battle on the track, we're kind of just waiting for Joe Flanagan and Theo Taylor, that battle to kind of culminate into something. And we have about 12 minutes left, 12 minutes to go plus a lap. So Brody, you said it. I mean, you want to be on the attack, but Pepto Joe is not a guy that is easily, what's the word I'm looking for? Easily rattled.
Intimidated. Yes, that's what I think about too. When he's catching these guys, you have to. And it's the same thing with their 1st and 2nd place guys, Koontz and Nick in the 1st place. There, you can kind of put some pressure on the guy in front, and if he's not solid with what he's got going on, you can kind of force a mistake. Now, Nick, I don't expect much of a mistake out of Nick, and I don't expect Koontz to do anything too questionable here either. But definitely when you're following a guy, you're in the more or less vulnerable position, I guess.
You know, have we ever done a race where we say no offense, Jared, but where we say the battle on the track is between 2 guys 13 seconds or literally 0.3 seconds from each other, lap after lap after lap? They just haven't made a move, and we know they're probably not going to here until the last 5 minutes.
That's the Koontz way. I mean, we've raced with Koontz for a long time. We had, or the Pro Mazda series, I guess, we had, and we've raced with them in the last season in the LMP2s, and you know, you see him out there, and this is what he does. He's a good stalking driver, but sometimes he just makes that mistake, and he just made one more mistake than Nick Dicesare last year, and Nick was able to grab that championship. But these guys, this is the battle. We're not minimizing the battle for the victory, but Koontz has just been stalking, and at some point in time, 11 minutes to go, might be just a little bit too early for that 69 machine. Oh, and my goodness, he made a big run into turn 1. Are we going to get a battle now?
He's kind of closed it up. One thing I'm noticing with these guys too is Nick's using a little more track than the Koontz machine. So I just wonder if maybe the handling is going away on that lead car a little bit, which you know, could be the case.
Toe down the back straight. Dechesary's going to cover it off. Koontz back around to the back, and they're going to single file through the bus stop. But Koontz is starting to.
Yeah, he was testing the waters there. He learned a little, got some information there, and I think he's going to set him up here sometime in the next couple laps for that turn 1 pass, because he seems to be a little better there.
gap between.
Well, he is.
Oh, go ahead.
But I just think it comes back to if you watch him off the last corner, and more track than the Koontz machine, and so I think that's given him a great run down to turn one. I think you're right, Dean. I think that's going to be the place to pounce, and I think that's where you're going to see the
big. And we jump out to our copter cam there, our drone cam, and he just out braking Dicesare through these hard braking zones through the boot. Koontz is just out braking Dicesare right now through those sections and really gaining a lot of time, just kind of setting up this lap as you guys were talking about.
All right, watch this off the corner. And that's what I was watching. That okay, he was not as bad as he had been, but he was using a lot of the curb there.
Difference in these cars. How much power, straightaway power, does the lead car have versus Koontz's car, right? And vice versa, because it seems like maybe that's the problem. He doesn't seem to have that straightaway speed where he can just pounce and take over that position.
Look ahead.
That goes back to the parity question. You know, some of these guys, some of the cars are better on straightaway speed. Some of the cars are better in the corners. And I think the Ford, if I remember right, is pretty good on straights, and so that's causing the Porsche behind him not to be able to close up as much as we would think they would on the straights, especially on the backstretch.
Up here in our blimp cam here, and you can see the Porsche is known to be very good through tight, twisty sections. The Ford is very good in terms of power. I mean, it's just a powerful vehicle, has a little bit more horsepower. That and the Corvette, very similar. And no surprise, the American car is very similar. The German car, the Porsche and the BMW, very similar. And right now you see on the blimp cam, Dicesare just not as good in the braking zones. And you see there, Koontz is really closing down the gap into turn number 11 there, right on the back. But Dicesare is able to get just a little bit better run up the hill.
Yeah, this is where he's got to be good. Koontz has got to get right to his bumper, right off of this corner. Maybe not this corner, this corner.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going through, what? The last corner right here, and we'll see if he gets a run. Nope. Nick gets off that corner really well. I think he's figured out kind of to back that up a little bit, and he's able to get that great run down the straights.
Bring up the mile per hour difference between these two drivers here on the battle box here, and kind of give you guys an idea of the top speed between these drivers right now. And it's basically Koontz has actually been the faster driver on top speed, 163 miles an hour. Dicesare only 162 miles an hour, and he's got a good toe down this back straightaway. Makes me just kind of wonder, Dicesare think about it and then pouncing when he's least expecting.
He is running out of time. So is Theo Taylor. Theo Taylor now.
Yeah, but they were. He was about 10 seconds behind the lap before, so that was almost. If I looked at that right, it was a 2-second gain by Theo there. He's running out of time, but he's really cranked up the power there, and they have one lap car in between them. The lap car Brian Bliss.
Yeah, Brody, bringing up the time delta, you see it was just about 2-second difference there. That gap now has gone down 8 seconds in 5 laps. So he is gaining, what, a little over a second a lap. And I don't want to do math on the fly, but a little over a second a lap, 6-7 minutes to go. I think Theo Taylor, it's going to be a hard press for him to catch Flanagan now at this point. It's going to be close.
I think Pepto Joe is going to, it's going to play out. The strategy is great driving all night. He qualified 5th tonight. He was solid all night. I think, he's the type of guy not to make a mistake. He might be, gentle. He might let you go when you get there. Not at this stage of the race. But when it comes to making mistakes, I wouldn't look to Joe Flanagan to make one.
7.7 seconds now between these two drivers. Theo Taylor, he is putting the throttle down. Now, he does have to pass Brian Bliss, and Brian will likely get out of the way when he has an opportunity to. And he might use him for a little bit of tow, gain a little bit more time, but not going to go down without a fight here.
Yeah, we're going to see at the line here. It was 8 seconds. Let's see what he gained here.
Ooh, not at quite a second, only 0.7 of a second. By our calculations here, 7.4 the gap now.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a question of Theo just pushing too hard, or maybe Joe kind of flattened out some of the issues he was having and kind of just got consistent. Like Dean said, you can't count on Joe to really make a mistake. So so if he just runs consistently here, I think he's actually got this in the bag now. We were questioning that, but he's found some consistency there. He's laying down some pretty good laps.
Do want to highlight another battle on the track, the battle for 8th place. Daren Snyder has come down from 3 seconds to now it's a second, as Daren Snyder is caught behind the lap car of Yario Escobar here, and that's a battle for 8th place on the track between these two drivers here, and Rice is going to get a toe on him already.
Yeah, there you go. Daniel Rice up to 8th place.
Oh, no, that was Escobar getting out of the way. Rice is going to get a move going up through the S's, though. He is right on the back bumper of Escobar.
My mistake there. But I still think he'll get him. The lap times indicate he's going to get this spot. I mean, this is crazy. We got battle for first, second, third, and fourth. And then you get the Rice battle back there in 8th and 9th.
And Burghdoff is actually catching both of these guys. I don't think he's going to have quite enough time to get into this battle, but Snyder right now, Rice is all over the back, moves there, gets a good run off the corner. He's going to do the undercut into the corner, and what a move by Rice. He's going to take that position.
That was sneaky. That was a good move. That was sneaky, though, man. He was looking to the outside. As the guy swings to the outside, he stuck it in there and was able to make the pass. That was a nice, clean pass.
Yeah, it was fun, but he made it work. Awesome move. Meanwhile, Dicesare starting to open it up. Has Koontz let him get out here too far?
1 second now. That's looking at our past data here. That is the biggest lead that Dicesare has had since the 13th lap of the race when Reinhardt was still in it. He was ahead of Koontz by 1.8 seconds at one point in time. And now is Koontz... Now, Dean, you say that, but is Koontz maybe cooling those tires down to get one last run at this thing?
I mean, you'd like to think so. I highly doubt it, though, at this point in the race. He knows there's no time left. I imagine they're both driving the wheels off it at this point. I think it's just that power of that other car is just wearing him down on the straightaways. He can't, but, you know, we still got the other battle, too. Theo, I don't think Theo's got time. We're down to 1.5 minutes. Jared, this might come down to when do you get the white flag?
And they just got it, actually. They just got the white flag.
Yeah, because the way that works is if the lap time is going to be longer than the amount of time left, so that will give them the white flag early. Otherwise, they'll have to do a +1 lap. So this is it for Matt Koontz here. Dicesare going to lead him down into the bus stop, and that gap is down to 0.7 of a second. Koontz is putting it all on the line right now, down to 0.5 second through the bus stop.
I think he just realized they got the white flag, and he's like, oh, darn, I thought we had one more lap, but no, sir, this is it. You better get going.
They're coming up on the lap car, too, of Yario, and he's going to let him go there.
Getting out of the way.
Down through the boot section, Koontz has cut that lead in half in just half a lap. Can Koontz make it happen? Dicesare, a little connection issue. Hopefully he's able to finish this race out without something like that happening as they go into one of the final passing zones of the race, and Koontz just can't get there.
That braking zone, though, you see him close right up. He made up a ton of time there.
I was going to say, he did make up a lot of time through this last corner, coming out onto the straight, the two sweeping corners left here. And he's right on the back bump now.
0.2 of a second. Dicesare in the Ford, Koontz in the Porsche. Koontz is going to give it everything, but it's going to be Nick Dicesare. Oh, I thought he got a little bit loose. Down the front straightaway as they're still battling to the line. Koontz is going to win, or Dicesare is going to win. Koontz is going to grab second place. What a battle. I think Koontz may have left it just a little bit too long, and at the same time, a podium finish for Joe Flanagan if he can keep it on the track. Theo Taylor just ran out of time, guys.
Yeah, watching Theo, he just locked up too, man. He was pushing as hard. He's pushing as much as you can. And that's one of the things with this strategy is you've got to push and get all you can out of the car at the end, and sometimes you get a little too much.
Had Tanaka out here, finishing up a great race and probably get 5th here with Romanowski behind him. Brewpatcher going to be in 7th. Well, he's still going to fight off Burghdoff here for 8th place.
While we were watching the lead, Burghdoff got around his teammate Daren Snyder. And now Daniel Rice has got Burghdoff. It's about a second difference. Can Burghdoff make that up? I don't know, on a good show through the pack here on the last little bit here.
I tell you, Rice was wide through that last corner. If he continues to make mistakes, Burghdoff is going to be there.
Yeah, he's closed in a ton here. He is under a second, but it is just too late in this run.
Well, you hate to come down to a 90-minute race, come down to a little bit, a tenth here and there, and you think back, you're like, what could I have done differently? And all these things come rushing through your mind.
That's how pit crews get fired.
Daniel Rice is in his debut race going to come home 8th place ahead of Eric Burghdoff. Just ahead of them is Jari Brewpasher and Paul Romanensky. Daren Snyder, a little bit of a pit strategy again, a little bit low on fuel, and he is going to grab 10th. The last driver on the lead lap. Watts in 11th, Lane Allen 12th, Brian Bliss 13th, Tony Solari 14th, Escobar 15th, and Matthew Filipowicz in 16th, the last driver running in the race here tonight. We had several retirements, but not too bad. Page, Elder, Reinhardt, Staubitz, Blackner, Torrey, and Hannah all failed to finish here tonight. But fellas, what a race it was as Dicesare starts off the season the way he ended last year, winning, even though it was a different car.
Yeah, great job by him. Unbelievable race up front. I mean, we had other things going on that we were looking at because we knew those guys were going to run kind of status quo till the end. But Dicesare, just awesome job. A couple other guys I want to highlight had rough nights tonight. Filipowicz, for one. What a fantastic run he had early. Gotten in that accident. That was unfortunate. And Lane Allen back in 12th with that pit road speeding penalty really hurt him tonight.
Yeah, it did, and but he still recovered for a good points night, and we will be heading on to another race in 2 weeks' time. So plenty of time left to get some points as Dicesare is going to burn it down, and congratulations to him. Well, we are break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from our top 3 finishers here tonight at the 90 minutes of Watkins Glen. All right, we're back live here at Watkins Glen, where we have witnessed a great opening round of the SimRacingPoints.com sports car series. Dean, what a race it was tonight, and intriguing battles all over the track, as you said right before we went to break.
Yeah, man, great battles on the track. More importantly, I think the strategy, the off the track, if you will, the pit stops, the tires, super interesting. Great job by a lot of guys. I mean, of course, your podium finishers, but some of these other guys like Taylor and Hantanaka, Romanowski, I mean, great races by these guys and perfect calls and great pit stops and just everything you'd want from a race, man. I really enjoyed calling it.
It's an excellent race, and we do thank Brody Hanna for stopping by in the booth tonight and giving us a little bit of insight into the race here tonight. But I'm down here in the podium area and down here with Pepto Joe, the concertina man. Joe Flanagan gets it done, grabs a third place finish here tonight. Congratulations, Joe. What a race.
Thanks, man. It has been my goal since I joined this league to get interviewed, and I never thought it would happen on a road course. Now that I'm here, I don't know what to say, but it was a great race. I had a lot of fun.
Well, Joe, I'm glad that you were able to get it done, man, and it's a pleasure to interview you. But, man, take us through the race. First off, I have to first off say I was shocked at how competitive this race was. Were you a little bit taken aback by how competitive and how many different players there were in the race?
I knew Theo and I usually are pretty close together, and we just were inseparable there. And there was a few cars behind him that we weren't pulling away from either. I was really shocked. And then that first pit stop, I had about a 2-second lead on him, and somehow or another I came out 4 seconds behind. I don't know what happened there, but then I was just I didn't have a lot of time this week to practice, so I didn't have strategy figured out real well. So I was kind of just following the leaders, and it ended up working out for me.
Well, you said you were following the leaders, but you actually look like you may have changed up your strategy a little bit. So you took tires in the first stop. The second stop, you came in and took fuel only, and that was the difference. You were able to leapfrog Theo back, who did the opposite of what you did. And man, you took the lead there for a second. Did you think you could hold off Koontz and Dicesare there, or did you think you were a sitting duck at that point?
Well, I hate to correct you, but I never did take tires. I didn't take tires that first stop. I don't know why it took so long to sit there.
Oh, okay.
But no, I never had any idea that I was going to hold off Nick and Matthew. Those guys are in a class of their own there.
Well, Joe, I mean, what a run for you. It's a great way to start the season, a third-place finish. We're off for the next week, so we're going to come back in 2 weeks on the 26th at Zandvoort. Are you looking forward to that track? Have you had any experience racing that track out there in the Netherlands?
I have, and I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite tracks. I don't get a lot of time on it because it doesn't seem to be real popular, but I do enjoy it a lot, and I'm looking forward to that. It should be fun.
All right, Joe. Well, congrats again on your third-place finish. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you have the last word, bud.
All right. Well, thanks to you guys for the broadcast. It's always enjoyable. And thanks to my teammate, Michael Watts, for all his help. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of time for practice and strategy, so he helped out a lot. And thanks for Brody and them for putting on the league. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, thanks to my sponsor, Pepto's Concertina channel on YouTube.
And Joe, by the way, you also want to thank Pepto Joe Jr. He was rooting you on all night in the chat. So go give him a shout out when you get back.
I sure will. Thank you.
All right, Dean, that was our third-place finisher here tonight, Joe Flanagan. And I believe you're sitting on the second step up there with Mr. Matt Koontz, who came up just short.
Yeah, I got the 69 Matt Koontz, second place, almost a victory tonight. Great run, Matt. I know you would have liked to have one more, but a great second place, man.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I gave it everything I had. I mean, it was just 51 laps of nothing left in the tank.
Absolutely. Let's start back at the beginning here, the start of the race. Were you thinking maybe this is the place to make the move? Did you try anything right at the start of the race?
I've had so much bad luck on restarts and starts in general where I've spun in turn one. And so I was just trying to keep it clean, fall in line, maybe save a little gas.
Yeah, and I always think that's wise for sure, especially two guys up front with such class. You and your teammate here, you come in, you're running the whole race, and I mean the whole race together on a parade almost. But we get into first pit stops, and you decide to come in first. You're short pitting. Were you a little surprised that you didn't beat him when he came in?
Yeah, I wanted to push, but this is the first time I've really been in the RSR in a long time. And so I just kind of took it easy. I knew it was a 90-minute race. I just didn't want to push too far.
Right. So second pit stop, it's flip flop. You're second in, but again, you come out right on his tail. So you're riding around now. We're coming down as the laps are winding down here. We see you make one pretty aggressive move trying to get him. Were you, I know you're just saying weren't really unsure. You didn't want to push too hard, but you were trying to find his weaknesses. Yeah, obviously, it was a hard thing to find any weakness on Nick Dicesare.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a good driver. He's so consistent that I try and push hard at the end of stints to get him to make a mistake. We run so close in times usually. So I knew I wanted to have fresh tires at the end. So I did the stint and a half or stint and a quarter without any tires. So I'd have something fresh at the end. But even then, I mean, I was locking the rears up into the big braking zones, just trying to get that little bit of an edge.
And we come down to the end of the race, Matt, and I gotta say, I just said this all really depends on when the white flag comes out. And Brody was up here. Brody's like, "Well, it just came out." Did it surprise you, and did it hurt you a bit not to have one more lap?
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have one more. 2 or 3 laps before the white flag, I locked up my rears pretty bad in the boot, and it cost me a second, second and a half. And so I was just trying to fight that gap the entire last couple of laps.
Well, Matt, you did a great job, man. I mean, Nick's very tough to beat. I know you're tough to beat when you're in front of him as well. So I think this battle's going to rage on. You guys put on a show tonight. Big congratulations on your second place finish.
Thanks a lot. Really looking forward to the rest of the season.
All right, brother. You got any shout outs? Anybody you want to thank? Go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the team principal giving me the Porsche. I'm not really sure why, but something about the accounting. I'm not really sure. But shout out to him because I was feeling great with the RSR underneath me.
All right, Jared, that's your second place finisher, the 69, Matt Koontz.
And I'm down here, the champagne spraying, and Nick Dicesare picks up where he left off last season, grabbing a victory. Although it's in a different car, Nick, it looked like you didn't even miss a step. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks, Jared. I wanted to start off this season strong. I usually take a few races to spin up, I guess, and get up to speed in a new car. We spent the last season racing the prototype, so I picked the car that was most like a prototype.
Yeah, the Ford GTE, a gorgeous car. I might be a little biased as a Ford guy, even though I didn't really drive it very much. But anyway, Nick, the beginning of the race, I mean, it was you and Matt, which we kind of expected, but a newcomer. William Reinhart was there in the beginning of that race. He looked like some tough competition. How concerned were you with that 64 driver?
It's always, I haven't seen him last season. So when you race around a person you're not, I don't want to say comfortable with, so I'm sure he's a fine driver, but when you race up against somebody that you're not too familiar with, you don't know exactly how to defend or if you even wanted to defend that early in the race. He was quick. He was gaining on me into the bus stop, especially. That was a huge spot. He was making up, a few tenths every lap.
And that's where it undid him. He looked like he got a little aggressive in the bus stop, ended up hitting that wall and ending his night. But then the rest of the race, Nick, I mean, it was stalking. Matt Koontz was on your bumper all race long. I know you guys didn't see anything else that was going on. Great action all through the race. But you guys were just nose to tail the whole time. Was there a strategy move there involved with Very Racing, or was it kind of every man for himself, and Matt was just kind of making you feel a little bit uneasy there on the back bumper all night?
Well, we don't use team orders, that's for sure, and he definitely made me earn it. I wish I could say I was just cruising in front of him, but I was not. I was trying extremely hard. I was basically giving it everything I had, and he was right there the whole time. And we're always very close in speed. If you look at all the practice sessions we're in and everything, and it's we're so used to racing each other, it's almost not fair. Like we know each other's moves already.
Well, I think this season there's going to be some other guys that's going to poke their nose into it, but we got a couple weeks off, and then we're going to go across the pond to start the European stretch of the season at Zandvoort. Are you excited about that race? Have you had a lot of experience at that track? What are your expectations heading into the Netherlands?
I don't think I've even turned one lap on that track before, so that is not great. We're going to have to ship the cars over to Zandvoort and do some practice. Maybe I can learn something from Matt.
Well, Nick, a great way to start your season off, and congratulations as well on your LMP2 championship last season. But I'm going to turn it over to you, man, let you have the last word on a great start to your season.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Dean. I want to say thanks to the team. It was a fun race, and I want to say, dare I say, perfect race for Very Racing. And it was a blast, and I want to thank everybody for racing. Thank you guys for commentating, and I'll see you guys in a few weeks.
All right, Dean, that was our winner, Nick Dicesare, starting off the season, even though it's a different car, right where he left off last year.
Yeah, it almost looked like those two were still in the prototypes, but great job by Nick. I mean, he just so consistent. You heard Matt Koontz talk about it. Just, there is no weakness. I mean, you're going to have to do something overtly aggressive to get by him. And I don't think that this track played particularly well to Matt's car with those long straightaways. He just wasn't able to get those big runs with the power under the Ford of Nick Dicesare.
And then, not next week, but in I guess 3 weeks' time, we'll be heading across the pond to Zandvoort, a track that is nothing like Watkins Glen, has one straightaway and a lot of twisty sections, and so it's hard to say what we're going to see going across the pond at the end of June. But we've got a whole lot of stuff coming up on Full Throttle Sim Racing. I believe the end of the ESRA campaign, the Clash Series, will be tomorrow night. And then Monday night, we're going to have Full Throttle Sim Racing back with us for their Dark Matter designs. They're going to be at a road course, Sonoma, so you don't want to miss that. A great battle last time out between Jeff Chandler and Lane Allen. Amazing battle between those two drivers at Circuit of the Americas. And I'm sure that we're going to have something similar to that at Sonoma as we move forward. And then, of course, on Wednesday night, you'll hear this guy again, Dean Doucet. He'll be in the booth covering all the action for the Blackwater Products Truck Series as they move on to Texas on that series. But for tonight, for Nick Dicesare and Matt Koontz and Joe Flanagan, what a race for those guys. And then for my partner, Dean Doucet, thanks for Brody Hanna joining in. I'm Jared Carr, and that's going to do it here at Watkins Glen. See you guys at the track. Have a great evening.